All right, boys, let's run it. Today's mastermind is just gonna be all about content and basically like the new content strategy that I'm implementing and also what I learned paying $20,000 to actually get access to Daniel Dalen. And the reason why I did it was because me and Josh are trying to take the brand to a whole new level, and he's built a brand that can follow him no matter what industry he pivots to. And that's what I call a true personal brand. I don't call a true personal brand providing value or selling a course. I call a true personal brand actually running up a audience that actually fucks with whatever you do and will follow everything you do. And he's the only person in the online space that I feel has genuinely done that in the best way possible. So basically, he went from 0 to 183,000 followers and 0 to 179,000 subscribers in a span of 2 years, okay? And I reverse engineered his method and actually implemented it for myself based on what I saw worked for him. So I went from 25K to 64,000 followers in the last 3 months by basically figuring out, okay, Daniel implemented authenticity. He implemented how genuine he was in his content, and that's why I was able to scale up. I did the same thing, and I blew up in the Instagram space and also in the YouTube. Right now, we're sitting at 7,000 subscribers, and I would have never actually achieved this if I didn't reverse engineer why Daniel Dalen blew up. And once I reverse engineered it, I was able to get these results, and so me paying him 20K was getting insights directly from him and not just seeing it from an outside view, okay? And before, I was getting these type of views, 6K, 8K, 5K, averaging around 5K, which is not bad. But now we're averaging around 20 every single video. We have videos that pop off, get 200,000 views, 800,000 views, and we understand how to actually go viral and get leads whenever, okay? Again, before, 2K views, now it's 24K, 23K, 5K, all that type of shit. So we've basically 10x the views on all platforms. And it's been a huge game changer because when you 10x everything, you 10x the lead flow, you 10x the volume, you 10x basically the business. I did this through his free content, and we're gonna cover exactly what I learned actually paying him 20K and how we're actually gonna take the brand to a whole new level. So the problem that everyone is facing right now is that you guys are focused on creating content to get clients. And when you create a personal brand around your offer, what happens is people don't feel as genuine. And I'll tell you guys why. You never actually build a brand. You build a brand to sell. And when you build a brand to sell, you never actually create that connection with your prospects. And so the best personal brands in the online space and in the industry, again, we don't just want to look at what's working in the info space, we want to look industry-wide. They show no intent to sell, even if there is an intent to sell. And I'll give you a few examples. Hormozy. When you think of Hormozy, you don't think of a guy that sells courses, you don't think of a guy that sells all this type of stuff, but he does. He literally ripped a live event. And when you look at his YouTube, it looks like he's just providing free value, and you already have a good impression of Hormozy, right? And the whole idea is he has that perceived perspective, but then on the back end, he's selling stuff for 6K, selling stuff for 18K. And it doesn't feel like he's selling. That's the type of brand that you guys want to build, because when you build a brand that only provides value, then what happens is people will just have their guard up, okay? They have their guard up. And I piffed 6K. You can ask Alec, right? I piffed the 6K with no hesitation because of the brand that he's built. And when he brought me to this landing page, I basically piffed 18K as well. So in a span of 2 days, I spent $24,000 of Hormozy without a sales call. And it's a key factor that there wasn't a sales call needed because there wasn't any selling needed. The content and the personal brand already sold me. And I'm as sophisticated as it gets. So how can we create the same amount of trust and the same amount of brand for our own audience? Daniel Dalen's the same. I mean, he told me that him starting the personal brand allowed him to 6x his business. He doesn't even talk about his fucking company. Some of you don't even know what he does, right? But he's been able to 6x his business. Iman Ghazi as well, right? And when you're watching these brands, it feels like they aren't selling. And what that does to you subconsciously is it lowers your guard. And when you lower your guard, you can be influenced. And it's the whole idea of when you walk in the store and the salesman is just straight away coming to you and just asking you, oh, like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you want? I can help you. Like, you don't want to give off that impression immediately when someone watches your content. You want to kind of get them to find you. When you go to a luxury store, obviously this person that serves you, but there's not someone that always comes up to you and asks you, what do you need? What do you need? Don't be that salesperson going into that room and serving the customer that way. And so you need to lower their guard in order to get them influenced. It's all about lowering the guard. And so now you guys want to think, okay, how do we actually build a strong personal brand that actually drives sales effortlessly, the same way that Hormozy, Daniel Dalen, all of them have done so. And there's three main levers you can pull. The first lever that I see across the board that have built the strongest brands on social media is YouTube. I want you to pay attention to this because a lot of you have it the other way around. A lot of you have 80% focus on Instagram and 20% focus on YouTube. And I can tell you from experience and from talking to Daniel himself and looking at all the industry leaders, the reason why they're so successful in their brands is because you spend a shit ton of time with them. You can watch them for 20, 30 minutes on end and you feel a connection. You can't feel a connection through an Instagram reel, right? It's 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and they're just gonna scroll. And when someone clicks on a YouTube video, they have an intent to spend time with you. When someone comes across your reel, they have no intent. It just comes across in the algorithm, all right? And so my 6,000 subscribers contribute to 80% of my sales. Every single YouTube video, every single prospect that has come to me in the last 2 months has watched minimum one YouTube video. And you gotta ask yourself, okay, if this is how much YouTube is helping me and the industry leaders, why are you guys not doubling down on YouTube? Okay, it's the biggest lever that you can pull. And so these are all payments that came from the YouTube. The big pips that you see, the 11.5K, the 10K, all of this type of shit, the guys that pay the 18K deals, they're all coming from YouTube and they're all ready to invest. Iman, I wanna give you an example. You came from the YouTube as well, right? Do you remember the first message you sent?
Yeah, I sent a message where I had the money, here's how much I got from this, 6.5K ready to invest.
Yeah.
Send me a link.
Yeah, and he would have piffed that in the DMs. And so if you need sales call to sell, you gotta ask yourself, like, why? How can you get your prospects to spend more time with you so that if they want to piff into DMs, they can. And if you never get a message like that every once in a while, you're doing your content wrong. That is a huge, huge, huge red flag in your content and in your personal brand, all right? 2 of these are actually in the DMs, they're DM closes. And then Instagram just pushes them to take action. So it's the whole idea of Instagram and YouTube working together. When you post Instagram and YouTube, don't think that it's 2 separate platforms. It's the same thing, if that makes sense. And so your audience needs to spend the maximum time with you, and you gotta think about your best performing clients. Your best performing clients probably all watch the YouTube. Think about the piffs that came in. When you see a YouTube lead, your mouth starts drooling because you know that he's gonna fucking pay, right? And so why are we doubling down on Instagram? Why don't we double down on YouTube as our main platform and use Instagram as a top of funnel to drive traffic to the YouTube? That was my main takeaway from his mastermind, and it was huge. These guys are all pre-sold, they're all bought in, and this is the funnel, right? Obviously, Instagram is the thing that gets you the attention, but YouTube is how you actually nurture that attention, build that trust, and then they convert on Instagram. It's very, very hard for you to actually just use one of the 2. But if you double down on YouTube, and if there's one takeaway you have, YouTube made me all the money that I have today. It did. And it's the #1 catalyst for building a strong brand. I don't just want you to build a brand where you sell. Because I'm sure a lot of you're not gonna be in the info space when you're fucking 30. When you transition out into different industries, you need to build a brand that follows you. And so YouTube is the best way to do that. You need to ask yourself as well, how do I want people to perceive me, right? You have to have a specific perspective that people look at you, and me and Josh was talking about this the other day. The problem with a lot of you guys is that you're oversharing, but you need to be extremely intentional about the type of perspective that you want to give off. So do you want to be the founder that is systematic and logical, or do you want to be the founder that is controversial and brutally honest? And there's 2 sides of the spectrum, right? You have a guy like Tate, who just tells you how it is and is extremely controversial, is in your face, and you have a guy like Ali Abdaal. You can't be in the middle where it's like you're chill and aggressive at the same time. You have to choose polar extremes, because if you're in the middle, no one gives a fuck. So be intentional about the brand that you want to build, and always ask yourself, okay, if I want to, what do people buy into me for? And how can you double down on that? And so the best way to do that is to reverse engineer why people chose from you. I keep on talking about this, but not a lot of you guys still do this. You guys are still stuck in the same spot. This is a question that we asked in the onboarding, and these are a few responses that I got. This guy said transparency, the fact that you led with value before trying to extract money, right? All of these things, the way you do biz, morals, values, all that type of stuff. So that's a sign and a direction for me to double down on that specific thing. From content, could tell bro genuinely cares about client success, all of that stuff. And so when I show me and my clients, and even this client mastermind retreat, what you guys don't realize is that this content is gonna, I genuinely think we're gonna make 300K a month off of this mastermind alone. Because the amount of client interviews we're gonna stack, the amount of proof we're gonna stack, the amount of just genuine interactions that I'm gonna have with clients is gonna show how much I care. And that's all someone wants. That's all somebody wants. When I plan to do my mastermind, I genuinely believe, and you can ask Josh, I genuinely believe that the reason why we did 150 the month after we did Dubai was because we had 3 client interviews pop off. We had, the free course reel do really well. We had a ton of FOMO, and every single person that joined in March mentioned something about Dubai. And so what does that tell you? If you have a big enough audience or a big enough community, run a mastermind, because it creates FOMO, right? It creates FOMO. And if people genuinely see that they care about you, that you care about your clients, show that. So move with intention. I want to see every single one of you that has at least 20 clients to run a mastermind by this year. It's the biggest game changer, and I have no question in my mind that we're gonna hit another record month in the month of September because of the content that we'll get from this trip and everything, right? All of this stuff, right? The content you put out is actually valuable. It doesn't feel like fluff. And he says something here which is really key. You give off the energy that I don't need you. You give off the energy that I need you, not the other way around. So if I constantly state that, hey, I'm 20, I make 150K a month, I don't give a shit about if I get an extra 10K from you. And I keep on talking about that and having that as my messaging, that works. Someone that done really well is William Brown. William Brown always talks about, oh, I exited my company. And now I don't need your money, I'm doing this out of passion. He makes more money with his current business now than his trading company in the past. But it's the angle where it's like you're detaching yourself from wanting, And that's how you build a strong brand. And even, the biggest brands, you feel like Hormozi doesn't need your money. But he just made 70 mil off of a webinar. A 1 to 5 hour webinar made him $70 million. And it's because we subconsciously feel like Hormozi is so up there that he doesn't need our money, which makes us want him more. Does that make sense? Your honesty, all that type of shit. Yeah. And so, the biggest bottleneck that you guys will face, I'll tell you guys right now, is you're gonna stop too early because you don't get views. And one thing that Daniel preached and that I really just nailed in my head was, I just need to keep showing up and building momentum. Daniel posted around 20 vlogs before his first vlog popped off. And they were of the same quality, same caliber, similar storyline, but he didn't stop posting because he knew that if he posted a great video and 10 people saw it, those 10 people will come back. And when those 10 people come back, it compounds, and then you post another video. Maybe that one gets 20 views. And then 20 people come. And so now you have a loyal fan base of 30. And so when you're starting out on YouTube, don't look at the view count, because that's the number one metric that's gonna fuck with your head. I'd say that 100 views on YouTube is equivalent to 10,000 views on Instagram Reels. Genuinely. So when you understand that, you're gonna play YouTube a lot more seriously, okay? Your goal of YouTube is to basically find an ideal format and double down on it. And so for Daniel Dalen, it's the POVs, it's the vlogs. And whenever you see someone else kind of have this thumbnail or have this title, you immediately categorize them with Daniel Dalen, right? Every single time. For Iman, it's the talking head videos are providing value, For Hormozi, it's the same thing, it's just providing value. And so people copy big creators, and this is especially important for everyone that's kind of like copied trends. People copy big creators thinking it'll build them a strong personal brand, but what that does is it puts you in a bucket. And they automatically associate you with a copycat. You're like, oh, this guy's doing this, I saw this before, he's just copying this. And what you're doing is you're subconsciously building someone else's brand because you don't have your own format. So the reason why I mentioned that is because you can take inspiration, but the moment that you completely rip a format, you are subconsciously helping them build their brand, and you're lowering your authority because people know that someone else started that first. People will disregard you immediately, and you want to use content for inspiration, okay? And the reason why I say that is because so many of you are doing styles that are working right now, but it's not building longevity. You're not creating a path. When you do, like black borders is an example, right? When you do black borders, subconsciously, we're all feeding into the first person that started it. And whoever made that format popular will always get the most credit. And so the whole goal of content is to create your own format, because now when everyone copies you, everyone's going to contribute to your personal brand, because they're going to be like, oh, this person's copying this guy, this person's copying that guy. And so the goal is to find a format that works. And Andrew talked about this the other day. A format is a content type that fits your personality and gets the best results with minimal effort. And this is the most important thing on YouTube. It's the most important thing. And the reason why is because when you can crack something, you basically just find your own niche in a saturated market, and everyone that copies you is gonna be associated with you, if that makes sense. So this one popped off, it got 24K views. I copied Hormozy's sales funnel and made me 151K a month. That's an example of a Miro board video, right?
Lowercase, all like intentional?
Yeah.
Why is that? So it's like more, less like businessy?
Yeah, so I thought to myself that if I look like everybody else, there's no reason, but this sparks curiosity. In your head, you're like, I mean, it worked for you, right? Why is this guy typing a lowercase? And that could be the reason you click on the video. And so if I look like everyone else and I capitalize the first letter of each word, then I just look like everyone else and you're just gonna categorize me again. So my whole point is, how can I look as different as possible? And how can I separate myself from the market? And it looks unprofessional, which also piques curiosity because it's like, what the fuck, you know? This one is also a Miro board video. And these popped off for me, right? Another thing that popped off was vlogs. We're doing well. Challenge videos. And so you gotta think to yourself, what is a format that I can rip that will get me the amount of views that I can just, you know, just completely leverage and completely utilize? And so an idea for you fitness guys, a Miro board video for fitness creators don't make sense. Like it generally doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? The reason why I rip Miro boards is because you guys are sophisticated, you guys are visual learners, and there's a lot of information to display. In fitness, these guys don't give a fuck about your system or anything. They want to be entertained and they just want to be in shape. And so I'd actually argue that challenge videos like this, where you're trying someone's routine, you're piquing someone's interest, and you're getting a shit ton of views, and then funneling them down your VSL is going to work 10 times better. Something like this, right? Why are you fitness guys not ripping something like this, like a challenge video? You're selling B2C, and when you look at someone, like when you look at my content and you replicate my content, you have to understand that the reason why I'm doing that is because my market is sophisticated. We're very different. So don't look at what I'm doing and just rip it. Look at what your ICP actually wants and what they'd actually watch and rip those, right? And the goal for format, this is the format equation that Daniel gave, is authenticity times leverage divided by effort. How authentic can you stay in your content multiplied by how unique you are? Like, what is your leverage? Why is it that people choose you? Divided by the effort. And if you can find a format where this is the best possible format for you, you're gonna rip. So for someone like Andrew, right? I feel like Andrew, he's more structured, he's more systematic. He'd rip more info videos where he's sitting down, he has a structure, and he can actually talk to a camera for 10, 15 minutes and just give value. Someone like Josh can just say fucking anything, you know? He can rip off a dome. And so maybe a talking video where it's like actual structure just doesn't work for him because that's not his format. And so what y'all gotta do is y'all gotta stop figuring out like, oh, this format worked for this guy, I'm just gonna copy it. But it's like, you have to figure out what your strengths are and whether or not that even aligns with the format that you're creating, okay? That's what you gotta do. One thing I would say, a lot of you are gonna share value information, and the most important thing that I can give you is I want you to learn how to preface, right? I want you to learn how to preface. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of you give value and you're like, okay, here's the 4-step system I used to make 100K a month. No one's gonna really care as much, but if you say, hey, I learned these 3 steps from Hormozy after paying him $20,000, and it took me 6 years of learning this piece of information to be able to get access to this. And I want to give this to you in the next 15 minutes for free. When you preface it like that, you show your value in a completely different way, in a completely different perspective, and it gets people to listen to you way fucking more. And so the most important thing when you're giving value is understanding how to preface so that you understand that these guys actually are saving not just money, not just time, but a lot of effort and sacrifice that you did. So this is an example, right? If I just go into it, you're not gonna listen. Like, maybe you will if you're really committed. But assume that people are just uninterested. If I preface the value like this, I spent $10,000 and 10 hours to learn this information, and I'm gonna break it down for you in the next 15 minutes so you don't have to. You are way more interested in what I have to say. Way more fucking interested. So if you're posting, like Josh, you're posting a client one-on-one, bro, have a hook, you know? Have a hook, because you saying hi and introducing yourself to the client, it's not gonna get someone to stick around, which is why you guys are stuck behind the 1,000 view mark. There's no intention, there's no there's no like, real desire for them to watch because it's just like a one-on-one call. You put no effort into that shit. But if you said that, hey, this client spent $10,000 for this one-on-one call, and after this one-on-one call, she made $30,000 extra on top of what she was already making. This is the exact call that changed her entire business. You know what I mean? And so you've been doing it wrong the whole fucking time. It's the small effort and the small pieces and how you position your information that changes everything. So the prefacing is huge. It's huge, and I recommend every single one of you, even if you can rip off a dome, structure the hooks. Structure the hooks and actually show intentionality, okay? And the long-term goal is to create your own bucket so that you can actually be an industry leader. I want every single one of you to be an industry leader. And the best way to create your own bucket and to find your own format is to be best friends with your clients. One thing I'm planning on doing, and this is gonna work extremely well because it's already working well, I'm planning to host 4 to 5 client retreats every single year in different parts of the world. And part of it is obviously to connect, but also just understand how you guys think and everything. Because a lot of it, like for a lot of you, you're so far ahead from the ICP that you're helping that you forgot what it's like. Matt, you forgot what it's like to be fat because you've been jacked for like years.
I was fat this year.
Oh really? Okay, maybe it's not a good example, but like let's say like for someone like Josh, he's been making money online for the last 1 to 2 years. He forgot what it's like to work at Aldi's. He forgot what it's like, and so he's giving his content from the perspective of where he's at now, but he can't give the perspective from where he was at because he's so out of touch. And the biggest thing that I can give you guys with content is if you can look at the perspective from your ideal client, it's gonna change everything. It's gonna change everything because you know exactly what you need to say in your content to get them to watch, okay? And once you can tap into their perspective, business becomes easy because you can solve literally every bottleneck you can think of. And volume is everything, right? It helps you figure out your format and authenticity. And once you find what works for you, you double down on it. The goal of YouTube is not to post vlogs and Miro board videos. The reason why I'm doing that is because I'm still trying to figure out my format. But once you find what works, you double down on it. And this consistency equation that Daniel shared is personality times format divided by friction. If your personality suits this specific format, content format that you're ripping, right? And there's less friction to actually do it, that is the best way to be consistent with what you're doing. And one thing that I would say is I don't want you guys to try and go viral just because when you go viral, you attract a completely different type of ICP. I want you guys to just strive to build a quality audience that aligns with you and who you are, okay? And once you find the right format, milk it as much as possible. It's the whole analogy, like every single big person does this. Charlie Morgan always has sit down and whiteboard videos. And it's the reason, right? It's the whole idea of ads. You don't scale ads until you have a clear winner. And until you have a clear winner, you have to keep on testing. But the moment that you find a winner, you cut all the losers that have the high CPM, that have the high ad costs. You cut it all there, and you put all your ad spend towards the one winning format. Content and ads is the same thing, which is why if you can rip content, you can rip ads, and vice versa. It's the same thing because it's all about testing and figuring out what the market actually wants. The third lever that I pull is how to actually build a team around you, okay? And this is the last thing that I'll go over. And then I want Josh to come up and actually share about like what he's been able to do to help me out. This is the highest leverage thing that I've done to scale my brand, and it's hiring a competent creative director. I understand that my expertise doesn't lie in content. It just doesn't. I am a business person. I'm a guy that is good at sales, good at systems, good at managing, but I'm not that fucking good at content. I need someone to give me that perspective, right? And so competence of your creative director and your team dictates everything. It really does. And the third lever is just managing the team. So the internal team that I have right now is I have a creative director, I have a YouTube editor, and I have a short form editor. And I recommend if you're above 20, 30K a month, I recommend you have these 3 guys in your content team. Josh, I'll call you up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna chill.
it.
But I have these 3 things, and the reason why is because if you get one editor to do both YouTube and short form, he'll never be good at both. He'll never be good at both because you're spreading himself. You're making him feel spread thin. It's like an appointment setter being a closer at the same time. You know what I mean? It's a completely different skill set because Instagram is based on retention. YouTube is based on helping, like editing to make the point clearer. So it's 2 different intentions. And if you force someone to do both, it's not going to be good. 1 person for each department. And on Wednesday calls, I went over this in the previous mastermind, but I want the team to lead the call. I want summaries of the weekly performance. And my team and my creative director is leading the whole front. And in this 1 hour call, we're brainstorming and we're reviewing what actually worked within the business to be able to double down on it. So we look at the views, and every single week we track the views. How many new subscribers do we get? How good did the videos perform? Why did they not perform as well as they could? What could we improve? And we're actually spending time with the creative director, the editor, and everyone to brainstorm how to improve it. And what that does is it puts initiative on their end. I can promise you the editors that you guys are paying right now don't give a shit, because you're paying them 15 to edit. They're just doing it to get it done. What you gotta realize, editing is one of the most important parts of the process. And if you're not even directly speaking to your editor, what are we doing? Like, genuinely, what are we doing, you know? So we go over this and I make them realize that your editing directly contributes to how many views we get, how much money we make, and I'll show you how I incentivize them in a bit, okay? I showed this yesterday. I want you guys to understand that data is everything. And if you don't have a metric like this, or you don't have a system like this where you can track the amount of followers per view that you get, and you can't track how many followers you gain based on the reels that you get, you'll never win. Because the guy that has more data will always fucking outcompete the guy that doesn't. I was talking to Cruz the other day, and Cruz was talking about how certain videos ripped him thousands of followers. But because they weren't intentional about tracking that, they didn't have the insight to be able to double down on that. You need a system like this, and every week your creative director should give you this and be like, okay, these are the reels that worked well. This is what we double down on. And I generally think we're the fastest growing personal brand in at least my industry, you know, helping coaches. And it's not even fucking close. It's not even close, you know? And it's because of systems like this. Another one is this. You need this. You genuinely need this. When it comes down to content in your personal brand, you think this is insane? Just wait till you look at Daniel Dale's shit. You know, this is the most basic thing ever. And a lot of you you just don't have it. You just get sent frame links and you call it a day. But there's no communication because no one really cares. You need this shit, okay? This is the bare minimum. And obviously N8N automation that Fossey built. This is the stuff that you need because you need data and insights to feed you and understand where the industry is headed and how you can actually stay one step ahead. So what we do is we actually track meaningful comments, saves, and onboarding. When we onboard someone, we always ask them, what YouTube video did you like most? What Instagram video did you like most? And we can double down on that as soon as business is slow. So when we need top of funnel content, we obviously know what to rip based on the views. But when we need to get sales, we're not posting the ManyChat reels. We're posting specific videos that our clients are mentioning in our onboarding. So based on what your business needs, we post different types of content, okay? This is huge as well. I'm implementing a system where I give my editor $50 for every sale from a qualified inbound content lead. Because what this does is it'll give them the incentive to not just edit videos, but to tell me, hey, I think this video will perform well and get more ICP followers coming in, not this one. And he will take that initiative because now his incentive is to get you more sales with content. Because again, our goal with content, you know, maybe for some of you it's to get views, but I'm sure for a majority of you, it is to get sales. This is what you guys gotta do, where you implement an incentive structure where it makes sense for the editor to tell you what type of content to post. I also give $50 for every 100 qualified followers that I gain. And so again, we track the ICP leads. We track the ICP leads and we know exactly how many qualified ICP people are following us every single day. And every time we reach 100 new qualified followers, I give each person on the content team $50. And if we set our month's reach goal, let's say we set 80K, you know, 80K is this month's goal and we hit it, I'll give everyone on the team 500. It's the biggest lever you can pull, and we always think that we only need to pay out the sales team, but I'd argue that the content team is more important than your sales team, genuinely, okay? And you have to realize that someone out there spends 100K to make $1 million a month. If you're scared about spending money and not paying your editors right and trying to find the cheapest Indian editor, you gotta understand that you're getting the lowest quality possible and you're getting the bare minimum. And if you're putting all that effort into running up your business and you're trying to actually scale, don't get the worst shit. Be willing to spend $50 to $100 per reel, because that'll go a long way, because that doesn't just give you the best edits, it gives you the best first impression and also the best type of content that actually generates sales, okay? So that's what everything is. And you just want to be so ahead that you dictate where the industry goes. And I want to cover this because a lot of you don't understand. When we launched this free course, I think I saw over 100 coaches rip this free course right after. Straight up. I saw 100 people just rip the free course straight after. And it's not original, you know, it's not original. And you have to realize that when you rip someone else's format, you feed into their personal brand. And I'm telling this out of love. Yes, it works, but your goal is to always be one step ahead so that you get the credit. I had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, once you drop their free course, everyone else started dropping their free course. I forced everybody's hand, you know? And so if you want to be an industry leader and you want to make 100, 200, 300K a month, you can't copy what someone else does because you're capped by their earning potential. You don't want to be capped by someone's earning potential and just copy what they do. You want to set your own earning potential. So the example is just a free course. Another one is just the black borders, right? We started ripping this. I think we were the first ones, right, Josh? The first ones to rip this, and now you see almost every other personal brand rip it. It's not bad, but you have to understand that people know that someone else did that first, and you're feeding into that personal brand. You're feeding into it. And the reason why me and Josh came up with it is because we reverse engineered why people chose us. We started vlogging, and then he just started clipping up reels, and boom. You see people do live sales calls now. Like, you know, it always ties back to the first person that does it. And so your goal, if you're trying to be an industry leader, you're trying to make a few 100K a month, never, never, never be complacent and just settle for what someone else is doing. Always be one step ahead and try to figure out your own format. And one thing that has worked extremely well for me, and I've talked to some of you guys about this as well, associate yourself with industry leaders. It is the biggest cheat code. Once I did this with Daniel Dalen, the first video that I posted, we got this amount of views in a day. Got 114,000 views in a day. And he was just talking about what he would do in my position, the advice he was giving me. And just by associating myself with someone like Daniel, I elevated my status. And I'm talking to you guys, I mentioned it to Cruz. Who does your ICP actually look up to? And how can you find a way to get close to them? And so Daniel's up here, I'm down here. That guy makes a few M's a month, right? But what I realized is that if I post a video or I post on Instagram a picture of me just with him, automatically people associate my status with Daniel's status. And it brings myself up here. And it's evident because look at this shit. This is from one fucking reel. And you guys will recognize a lot of people here. Some guys have 170,000 followers. Some guys have 500,000 followers, 80K, 180K, 58K, 400K, Tom Noss. Like all of these big creators that you guys probably consume content from are following me now because I've understood the art of association. It's the association bias. And one thing that I'm planning on doing is investing into other industry leaders. And so Iman is coming up with something in like next year in May. I'm probably gonna spend 25K there. Because I know that by associating myself with someone like Iman, that's gonna put me in front of everybody. And what that does is it piques curiosity for people to funnel down into my YouTube. And it naturally gives me more leverage and more authority instantly. It's the fastest way to gain authority, right? Fastest fucking way. And when you go on an account and you see 100 people that you follow this personal brand, that's instantly gonna elevate your authority and it's gonna instantly elevate your personal brand. So it's all about association, okay? Yeah, they just judge you based on the caliber of people you're around. So be intentional. Who are authority figures that your ICP looks up to and how can you find a way to be in the same room with them? If you have to pay them, then so fucking be it. Pay them. Because that picture is gonna be on your personal brand forever and it's gonna pull you to a whole new status level that you can't even imagine. These are dudes that I actually look up to, you know? Ben Bader's been crushing the game for I don't know how long, you know, like a long ass time. Tom Noss, he's been doing this for like 8 years. He's someone that I learned content directly from. All of these guys, and these guys have huge amount of followers, huge. And so you gotta ask yourself, how can you attract that ICP? Because that's just gonna increase your authority and leverage. So yeah, that's the mastermind, boys.